everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. I'm going to show you today how to make this album. This is a smaller album. It's 5.5 by 7.5, and I used it to use up what was left in my stash of the Nature Notebook collection. I've done other projects with it. They will be linked in the description box. Go check them out. It's a fun paper. It's obviously nature themed and it's gorgeous. I am going to show you real quick a walkthrough of this book, and then as I go through each page style, I'll repeat, and so you remember what the pages we're going to make. But there's a more detailed walkthrough on my channel that I did just previously. So here's the cover. Inside front cover has this. So we've got room for a couple of photos. I also have this in here, but we're not going to be doing any decorating with the paper. I'm just going to show you how to complete the page. Here is the front of page 1. It's just a flap. Whoops, this goes actually in here. So they are pocket pages. There are 4 signatures, and that's held together with a magnet. The back of page 1 is like this. There's pockets here that I construct the pockets with the paper. I call them cheater pockets. I'm not going to show you how to do that in the construction. The construction is all what I do with the cardstock. This one will go up like that. Again, I've got a little cheater pocket here. There is our hidden photo mat. This page will go like this. And then this will slide and it'll open that way. This is just a wide side-loading pocket. There is our hidden photo mat. This page will go like this. And we've got room for a little tuck spot. Here's a pocket on this page. And this page really doesn't have any elements on it. It's just how it's decorated. The inside back cover has pocket with a flap. And that is it for construction. All right, let me show you how to start with making the mini album. We're going to use the lay flat cover method designed by Tamara Merrill of Country Craft Creations. When I say lay flat, it means the cover will lay flat when you're making it. It doesn't mean the pages will lay flat. And as a matter of fact, these pages are fairly bulky because I've used chipboard. I've got gusseted flaps. There still is lots of room for photos, but the book will not. The book doesn't lay flat when you open it because it's fairly chunky. It's a good size, but it's still fairly chunky. So anyhow, let me show you how to make the book cover. Okay, so to make the cover, first I want to show it to you. This looks like it is separate, and it actually is, from the spine is separate from the cover. So I don't know if you can see it good here, but let me show you how to do it. What we're going to do is wrap the chipboard separately. So I have one piece for the spine that's 2 inches by 5.5, and 2 pieces for the covers that are 5.5 by 7.5. This is heavyweight chipboard. You could use medium weight. I guess you could even use lightweight, but I like the heavyweight for this. So 2 pieces of chipboard that are 5.5 by 7.5. Now I've already covered them with score tape, and I will put that aside till we need that. I also have 2 pieces of my cardstock that are 7.5 by 9.5. So it's 2 inches bigger on than our chipboard. I also am going to be using these spacers. I have 2 1-inch spacer and 1 1.5-inch spacer. Let me show you how we use those. So I'm going to take one of my pieces to cover the cover, and I'm going to grab my piece and peel off the double-sided adhesive with score tape. I'll make sure my chipboard, or I'm sorry, my cardstock is up to the side and to the top, and I'll put my 1-inch spacer on the side and the top. I'm going to now adhere my chipboard. And what the spacers do is allow you to have a 1-inch excess around all 4 sides. Now I'm going to fold and burnish to make sure we get a good crisp line on it. And I'll make sure I burnish these sides as well. And then I'll do the 2 top sides. I like to use my surface to push my cardstock down onto my chipboard. And then when we unfold everything, you can see pretty distinctively that there are 4 squares in the corners where our creases are. I'm going to cut on the fold lines on the on the fold lines and cut off these squares. We'll just cut these off and we're good. Toss those out, obviously. Now, I'm also going to grab another pair of scissors and I'm going to make sure there's no overhang. So what I'll do is fold this around and you'll see there's a slight, let me put this underneath it so you can see. So my cardstock goes down in a little bit and down at the fold line. So there's just a little bit there. If I leave it, it's going to go against, it's going to be overhang. So I'm going to cut that off. So I am just taking my scissors, putting the top blade against my chipboard, and just cutting off a sliver. I'll go around all 4 sides and cut off any overhang that I have. And then I'll turn it over and do the same with the other 4 sides. So there's just slivers of our cardstock, and that's what comes off. All right, now you could use the double-sided adhesive score tape, or you could just use the liquid adhesive. And the liquid adhesive I'm using is glue from the Art Glitter Company, also known as Designer Dries Clear Adhesive from the Art Glitter Company. I use this almost exclusively. It's got a little bit of time before it holds. You don't have to use very much, and it's permanent. It really seems to bond together with the fibers, and it helps hold my albums together. So I added glue right along the side of the chipboard and zigzagged and across the perimeter. I'm going to take my bone folder, it's got a little bevel to it, and I'll push the cardstock right up against the chipboard, and then I'll pull it down with my fingers as I burnish the glue and get a good adhesion. Now I tend to do the long sides first and then go back and do the short sides, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Didn't mean to do that. So go against it, pull it down, and burnish. I'll do that here. Now, because we cut off all of that excess, I don't have to worry about pushing in any little tabs of paper. It just goes nicely together. One more side, and then we're done. And then I'll do the same with the other chipboard and the other piece of paper. Now I also will cover the spine. So for the spine, I need a piece of cardstock that is 5 by 7.5. And by the way, the cardstock I'm using here is 65-pound weight. You can use heavier. I wouldn't use anything over 100. Definitely not. I also will use artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, which is 87 pounds, and that works very well. In fact, that works even better. But for this prototype, I'm just using the 65-pound. So this is 2 inches by 5.5. I cut this paper 3 inches bigger than the width of my spine. I want 1.5 inches on each side. I have a spacer that's 1.5 inches. And by the way, if you don't have these spacers, which are available from countrycraftcreations.com, you can just use a piece of chipboard that you cut to 1.5 inches and a couple that you cut to 1 inch. So I have 1.5 inches this side, 1.5 inches on that side, top and bottom all of 1 inch here, 1 inch there. So I'll take my spine piece and push it down, and there we go. You can see it's a little wider at the side. I'm going to burn it. I'm just going to push this down. I probably should have done that with my covers. So I'll push it down and burnish. I am at a campground, so if you hear lots of noise, it's because it's moving out day and everybody's moving their trailers. Okay, so now I burnished, and you can see instead of having squares, I have rectangles, and I'm going to cut those off similar to how I cut the squares. So I'm just going to cut on our score lines and take off that little piece of paper. All right. Now we're going to treat this one a little bit differently than how we treat the covers. I'm going to burnish this down, go right up next to that chipboard for the side pieces. For the top and bottom, I am going to glue those down. Oops, first I'm going to take my scissors and cut off any excess. And I'll do the same for these pieces. I should have done it all at one time. So just going around, folding this in, cutting off a sliver. Alrighty. So now I'll add glue right next to the chipboard and around the perimeter, fill in, burnish, and distribute all that glue. If you have any excess, just go ahead and take it off, clean it off. Okay, and then I'll again push this down. And then let me get my covers and we'll put this all together. All right, let's put the book together. So here's our spine piece. And I'm going to take 1/4 inch score tape. You could have bigger. I just want to include something to help hold it while the glue is drying. So I just sort of put this in the center of our little wing piece. I'm going to burnish this down, and then I'll release the backing paper. Now I'm going to use my scoreboard to help keep everything straight. I'm going to put my spine piece against the side and the top, and then I'm going to take my cover and I'll just leave it there just to get it ready. And I'm going to add glue here. Now I don't want to go real close to the edge of where the chipboard is because I don't want the glue to seep out. I'm about 1/4 of an inch away, maybe a little more. Don't go any closer than 1/8 of an inch. And I'll fill in here with some glue and there. So again, against the side and the top, I'll take this piece and put it real close, but not exactly butted up against the other piece. I'm going to burnish this down. I'll turn this over and burnish it real well here. All right, we've got that one. Now I need to add the other cover over to here. So again, I'll add glue. And put it there. Now, since I don't have enough room on my scoreboard, I'm going to move this up a little bit and put this piece down. Again, there's a little bit of a gap between this piece and that piece. Not much, just a 1/16 of an inch, if that. And I'll burnish, distribute the glue. And there we go. But the only thing is, it's a little bit wobbly. Even though we're going to add our hinge on top, I want to cover up the rest of this. Let me clean up some of this glue. I want to cover this up. So I've got this piece. It is 5 7/16 by 5 7/16. I just decided to make it the same so I couldn't get it wrong no matter which way I put it on here. So this is 5.5, so I'm just a 1/16 of an inch smaller than the height of the book. I'm going to add glue here. I want to make sure I add a reasonable amount of glue because this is on the spine piece, but I don't want it sopping wet. I want it to be able to dry. I'll go on this side of the spine as well. And then I'm going to go around the perimeter of this piece. Of course, I can't draw a straight line. And then I will come and put it right next to the bottom, pushing it up with my thumb. I'll center it as best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And burnish real well. All right, I'm going to burnish real well, and then I'm going to gently raise the cover and use the blunt tip of my bone folder to push in that crevice. Just go back and forth several times, gently, because you don't want to cause a hole. Oops. Until I can crease it, and there's my cover. All right, now I'm going to move that aside, and we're going to work on the hinge. So for the hinge, you'll need a piece that measures 4 15/16 by 8.5. So I want my pages to be 5 inches, so this is just a 1/16 of an inch smaller than 5 inches. I'm going to score, and we're going to have 4 signatures the hinge is going to be 2 half-inch pieces, and there will be 3/8 in between. So I'm going to score at 2, 4, I'm sorry, 2, 2.5, 3, 3 3/8, 3 7/8, 4 3/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/8, 6 5/8, 7 1/8. So I have hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge. All right, now I'm going to remove the scoreboard. I'm going to turn this over so the bumpy side is facing up. So I want to fold in between each of the half-inch pieces. So we have a score line and then another score line. That second score line is where we're going to fold and burnish. And then I'm going to fold again between the next 2 half-inch pieces. So you'll skip one score line, skip another, and then fold. And we're going to do it 2 more times. So skip, skip, fold, and skip, skip, fold. And then we'll turn it so the bumpy side's facing down. And if you hold the center of the paper with your thumbs and pull the paper from the top towards you, you're going to get that mountain caused by where we already scored. So I'm going to grab that, pinch it together with my fingers, and just burnish it with my fingers, just to create a loose fold. I'm going to pull it again towards me, burnish, and keep going till we get all 4 hinges creased. So now you'll see there's 4 mountains facing up. I'm going to pull those together, pull them all one direction and burnish, push them in the other direction and burnish. Now we still don't have glue, we're just training the paper. Oops, it's a smaller hinge, so it sort of likes to get stuck. So now again, I don't have glue, but now we're going to add the glue. So I'm turning it over again, and I'm going to add glue. I'm going to zigzag it on one of these half-inch pieces and then go across the top. Zigzag it and then go across the top. I'm not right at the exact top. Whoops, there I was, but I went too far. And then I'll turn this over, crease this with my fingers, squeeze it, and let the glue distribute. Then I'll grab my bone folder and burnish that. And we'll do that to the next 3 hinges. Zigzag, go across, and there we go. Zigzag, go across, squeeze it, and one more. All right, and then I'll take my bone folder and burnish. I didn't add glue to the very end, so I don't have too much seeping out. But if you do, clean it up right away. Then I'll fold this the other way and burnish again. And then put everything so it's facing up. And there is our hinge. That's what the underside looks like. You can still see some of the glue, but that's good enough for now. All right, now I'm going to take my book. I'm going to dry fit it and figure out where exactly this is going to go. So the hinge will be centered top and bottom and side to side. There's about a 3/8 of an inch between where this crease is and where this hinge is going to start. So I'm just eyeballing it, figuring out where it's going to go, and then I'll start adding glue. Now to add glue, I'll just loosely hold this in my hand, add glue in that little crease, and that'll help keep my hinge together. Then I'll add glue, zigzagging it on the underside of the hinges all the way across. Okay, now I'm holding it with my fingers. I know where this is going to go because I already eyeballed it. So I'll gently place it down. And once I know it's centered on the paper, I'll take my forefinger and I'll start at the top, go to the center, start at the bottom, go to the center, and just try to distribute that glue. We'll use the bone folder in a second, but I started at the middle piece. Now I'm going to take one on the left side, this hinge, move it towards the center. You see the paper moves a little bit. So I'm going to go start at the top, start at the bottom, and just distribute that glue. Then I'll fold this hinge up, that next hinge up, and the hinge to the far right, I'm going to fold to the center and just push down against that hinge and distribute the glue. There's no glue on this wing piece, but there was glue where the hinge is. And then I'll go to the far left and do the same. Then I'll go ahead and use my bone folder and help distribute that glue. Again, if any seeps out, clean it up right away. All right, I'll make sure these hinges are all facing up, and then I will lift this wing piece, add glue here and on this wing piece. So I'll just go around the perimeter and zigzag it, and then I'll go down that little crease. I'm going to burnish from the top. I'll just go up to the middle. From the top, go down. From the bottom, go up. And I see a little bit seeping out, so I'll clean that up. And burnish. Now I want to take my blend end of my bone folder and go in where that crevice is and pull my cover up. Just go back and forth several times and distribute that glue. I'll move these hinges all the way over to the other side and do the same with the wing on the left side. Lift that up, add glue, go around the perimeter of our little wing piece, and then add a little bit of glue down that crevice. I'll fold this down, take my bone folder, go from the top to the middle, from the bottom to the middle. I'm going to distribute all this glue and then go down in that crevice and burnish. All right, I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to erase that piece. I don't need to erase it all because we'll cover most of it. I just didn't want any to be there. And just burnish it real well and let these hinges dry. They're facing up. We'll just let them dry. And now let's get to making the base pages. So in the book, our pages are pocket pages, which gives us room to put extra photos inside these hidden photo mats. So what we're going to do is make those pocket pages. To do that, you'll need two pieces for each page. So you'll need 4 of each of 5x7 cardstock and 4 of each of 6x7 cardstock. The 5x7 we'll put aside. The 6x7 with the 6-inch side at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 5.5. Now, if you want, you can miter the corners. I'm not going to because it doesn't need it in this case. I'm going to take this and I'll turn this upside down so the bumpy side is facing up. It's not critical, but I like to do it that way. And I will fold and burnish on the score lines. So now these 5x7 pages will fit right inside the score lines, and you should be able to fold these down. Now, if this page bubbles up a little bit, all you have to do is trim a little bit of it off, just a smidgen. So there's maybe a 1/16 of an inch piece, just so it doesn't bubble up. Now this mini album has the tabs on the outside of the pages, so when we put in our hidden photo mats, they're not going to get hung up on our tabs. So I've got the tabs folded. I'm going to add glue to the tab, just zigzag it across and pull it down and burnish. I'm going to make sure this folds, which it does without the paper bubbling up. So I'll add glue here and fold and burnish. So you'll do that with all 4 sets of pages. I've got the pages here, and I'm going to start adding them to the book. So what we first want to do is do a dry fit and make sure this will fit onto our hinges. They should, because we cut this a little bit smaller than what the pages are, and it does. So I'm going to put these on. I'm going to pull this off again. I just did the dry fit. I'm going to start with the last hinge. I'll add glue just on the top part of the hinge. So I'll do that with the hinge facing to the left, and then I'll gently move it over. Don't push it down because you don't want the glue to hit the book. If it does, just clean it up. And then glue on the top half of that hinge. I'll go ahead and add this piece in. And when it's just about 1/8 of an inch away from the very bottom of the hinge, I'll just go ahead and burnish. I'll go ahead and continue with the other 3 pages. Add glue to the top, flip it over, and add glue to the other side. Again, just keeping it at the top half. Take the little tube and slide it down. I first burnish it with my fingers, and then I'll take my bone folder and burnish. And I'll do that with the other 2 pages. I just wanted to tell you, if for some reason you find the pages are hard to get in, you can just take a little piece of the hinge and cut it off. So I just cut off a little piece from the top going down about halfway down. That'll just give you a little more give, and you'll be able to put the pages on without a problem. So, and make sure the pages are lined up top and bottom, and yeah, just make sure the pages are lined up. And that's all there is to making and adding the base pages. All right, now that I've got the pages in, I'm going to label everything, and we're going to go page by page. I'll show you the page and then show you how to make it. This is inside front cover. I abbreviated IFC. This is page 1 front, so I put 1F, 1B for 1 back, 3F for 3 front, 3B for 3 back, 4F, 4B, and then inside back cover. So now we're going to do the inside front cover. What that is just a piece that flaps over to the right and a small one that goes over to the left. I used one of the chipboard elements as a swing tab. If you don't have that, you could add magnets to the inside there. When I decorated it, I just added the pattern paper. This piece I layered on some green cardstock and glued it the sides and the bottom, and added just a little scrap as a tuck spot. And then I did the same over here. I glued this on the top and bottom and the side, and there's a tuck spot. And over here, I just did a cheater pocket, meaning I just cut the paper to fit, glued it on the top, bottom, and the side, And it just makes a nice little tuck spot for a card. So let me show you how to cut it. You're going to be amazed how easy this is. So you'll need two pieces for the inside front cover. One is 5.5 by 7. One is 3 1/4 by 5.5. The 3 1/4 by 5.5 we're going to put with the 3 1/4 side at the top and score it at 1/2 inch. The 5.5 by 7 with the 7-inch side at the top will score at 1/2 inch. So all these pages you can miter the corners, meaning we're just going to take a little bit off. So I'll start with the bottom and go up to the score line on both of these. Sometimes it's easier if you start at the score line because that's where your scissors will stop, and just go up to the top of the paper. So it's just a very thin miter. It just helps hide the paper when you put it in. So we'll do that to this one as well. And again, it is easier if we start at the score line and go. And then we'll fold and burnish on our score lines before we pull the book in. There's that. And there's that one. Now we'll grab our book. And the small piece is going to go to the left. So I'll add glue. And put this to the far left side of the page, lining it up with the edge of the book and the bottom. And then I'll open this up and burnish on our score line. And same thing, I'll add glue to the tab. And this will go to the right side of the page. So now make sure you stay on, not the page, the cover, on the cover. So here's where it folds. Make sure you stay a little bit to the left of that fold line. Line up the bottom and the top and make sure the side piece will still allow this page to open, or to close actually, and burnish on the score line. We'll open it up and burnish here as well. And again, that is all there is to the page. You can use a magnet or the swing tab. If you use the swing tab, or this chipboard piece as a tab, so I've got a brad right here, which I added to the paper before I glued the paper on. So that's just a hint on decorating. All right, now let's go to the front of page 1. The front of the page 1 is again really easy. I used this chipboard piece and I put a magnet on it, and that is holding everything down. You could add a swing tab onto it, have this go there, put a swing tab on the top, but I didn't want a swing tab since I already had one here. So all it is a piece that goes up to the top, and this goes down to the bottom. Now I made pockets when I decorated just by cutting, this is from the border strip. I just cut it the same length as the decorative paper, glued it on the top, I'm sorry, on the sides and the bottom. And this one I did the same, glued it on the sides and the bottom. And here I just added another border strip just for decoration. All right, let me show you how to make that. So for the front of page 1, I've got two pieces of cardstock. One is 7 by 2.5 and one is 7 by 4.5. The 7 by 2.5 with the 2.5 side at the top will score at 1/2 inch. And the 7 by 4.5 with the 4.5 side at the top score at 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, at 4. Or you could have scored at 1/2 inch, either way. Now I'll miter. And we'll fold and burnish on our score lines. And the bigger piece, the 4.5 by 7, will go on the bottom. Just line it up at the bottom and on the right side. I'm going to burnish this, open it up and burnish again. And the smaller piece will go at the top. So add glue to the tab. Line this up at the top. Making sure it's even at the sides, and then I'll burnish there. And again, you can add a magnet, you can add a swing tab, or you could add a chipboard piece with a magnet on that. So that is the front of page 1. Now let me show you the back of page 1. The back of page 1 has 2 identical flaps, and there's a pocket inside. When I decorated this, I first added this paper. This was a sticker I just put on black cardstock and cut around it. I layered this piece that was from the same sticker up just a little bit. I had some self-adhesive metallic gems that I just put there. Now on this side, I traced around the sticker and cut some paper just to match it, put a magnet in, put a magnet on this page, then added the paper for this page, and then added the paper for the back. I cut this piece with one of the border strips and just glued it on 3 sides to make a cheater pocket. We do make this pocket. This has a border strip on it up at the top, and then that's just a sticker, and those are stickers as well. So let me show you how to make that. For the back of page 1, you'll need 3 pieces of cardstock. One is 7 15/16 by 3 7/8. So just a smidgen under 8 by 1/8 of an inch under 4. And then 2 pieces that are 4 by 5. The 4 by 5 pieces we're going to score each at 1/2 an inch. And the 7 15/16 by 3 7/8, with the long side at the top, the 7 15/16 will score at 1/2 an inch. Rotate it so the short side's at the top, score at 1/2 an inch. Rotate it again so the long side is at the top with that score line close to the top, and score again at 1/2 an inch. So this is going to be a pocket, and we're going to miter this. I'm going to miter the top piece just by cutting up to that score line. This bottom piece, we have the 2 score lines. We're going to cut right across that X. And that's how we miter that pocket. And these 2 flaps, we're going to miter up to the score lines that we've mitered. Let's fold and burnish on our score lines. So there's one. There's the other. And then here's the third one. This is the pocket. So that's it for the pocket. Easy smeezy. We're going to put the flaps in first. So we'll take one flap and put it on the left side. Make sure that when you put it on, it is even with the side of the paper, the left side, top and bottom. Going to burnish and then open it up and burnish again. And this one I'll do the same. All right, so now we have these flaps. They should just meet in the middle. I'm going to open these up all the way, and then we're going to take the pocket. First, I'm going to add glue to the bottom tab, just the bottom. I'm not going to put it on the sides. And add this to the bottom of the page. So this should be smaller than our page, but you should still be able to close your flaps. So I put that on. I need to burnish it. As I do, I'm testing it just to make sure that there's enough room. And then I'm going to grab some Scotch tape. And I'm simply going to put this down at the bottom on top of that flap. That way, if you're putting something in the pocket and your cover paper doesn't go all the way to the bottom, it won't get hung up on that tab. Then I'll glue the side pieces. And there is our pocket with our side flaps. And again, we've got this piece which has a magnet inside here to correspond with that. And there's our pocket. All right, now I'm going to show you the front of page 2. It just has a flap that doesn't cover the whole page. It sort of gives you some interest on the side, depending on what paper you put on, and goes up. And I made a little cheater pocket here on the inside. Now this flap does have a gusset, just because I know I was going to use some chipboard pieces and I didn't want it to get too thick. So let me show you how to do that. All right, for the front of page 2, you have one piece that's 5 5/8 by 4 1/2. With the 5 5/8 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 3/4. So you'll have 2 gussets, or 1 gusset with 2 score lines. The miter, I'm just going to start at the score line and go up, and then fold and burnish. Now you can, if you want, round the bottom of the page. I didn't. Now I'm going to put this on the page, centering it on the page to save glue to that one tab. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to turn this upside down just to make sure this top piece is right at the very edge of the paper, of the page. I'll burnish, and then there we go. So I do have a magnet on the inside that you'll add. And then when you're cutting the paper, you can also cut, this is 1/4 inch, so just cut it 3/16 of an inch, just a little smidgen smaller than 1/4 inch, just to cover it. I prefer to cover them. You don't have to. And then, as I said, when I decorated this, I just covered this and then cut a piece of paper. This was about 1.25 inches. Added just one of the border strips. I'm calling it a border strip. It's from this paper. I just cut that down a little. It added a nice detail to it. And then added that to the paper, glued it on the 2 sides and the bottom, and that made a little cheater pocket. And then, of course, that is a pocket page. So now let me show you how to do the back of page 2. Whoops, it starts to get a little more involved. So this will open to the side. I have a magnet holding it down, and then I have a swing tab here. I'll move that, and then this will open all the way to the side. So that gives you room to put a couple of large size photos, maybe not 4 by 6, but pretty large. To put this on, I added the brad onto this paper before I glued it. Make sure you still have enough room to swing it around. If I was any closer, this would get caught up on this page. And then, of course, you add a little strip of paper to decorate it here, and then paper to decorate it there. So let me show you how to make that page. It's easy. Okay, for the back of page 2, you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock. One is 5 by 6.5. Whoops. 5 by 6.5, and one is 5 by 4. I obviously marked those wrong, but 5 by 6.5, 5 by 4. The 5 by 4, we're going to put the 4-inch side at the top and score it 1/2 inch. And the 5 by 6.5, put the 6.5 side at the top, whoops, and score it 1/2 inch. So what we're going to do is take this 5 by 6.5 inch piece, fold and burnish on the score lines. I'll miter. So we're going to take this piece, and this will go onto the left side of the paper, left side of the page, right at the edge. Put that on and burnish it real well. Open the page and burnish it. So there's that. Now this one, I'll fold and burnish and miter. So this one gets placed at about 1 inch from the edge of this paper. If you wanted to, you could put it right at the edge, but I like having a little interest, so I put it 1 inch at the edge of the paper. So I will add adhesive. You could measure this. I'm just going to eyeball it. Just put it down and burnish. So this piece has the magnet on it, and then this piece has the swing tab, or you could use a second magnet if you wish. So that is all there is to do for that. So now the front of page 3 is just a simple side loading pocket. When I decorated the page, I did cut this so it's a little cheater pocket. I rounded this so you could see a little more of the butterfly. So you could put something in there, but you also can use this as a side loading pocket. So for that, we'll need a piece that's 6 by 4.5. I already started scoring this, but with the 4.5 side at the top, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch. Then we're going to rotate it, and with the 6-inch side at the top, we'll score it 1/2 inch and at 5.5. We'll fold and burnish. We'll miter the corners. Miter here, and then go across where the X's are, and there is our pocket. So I'm going to fold and burnish on the score lines. And to put this in the book, I'm going to add glue to this tab that's going to go on the left side of the page. So we'll just add this right onto the page. Don't put it on the hinge, just put it on the page. We'll fold and we'll burnish on that glue, then open it up. And I'm going to add some tape in here. And then glue down the 2 remaining tabs. And that's it. That's all you need to do for that page. So again, I decorated it with this piece, cut it a little short, added the bottom piece onto here, and then this will go in there, and that can go into the pocket, and it is, of course, a side-loading pocket. So for the back of page 3, it's just got a small flap. It's decorated very simply. I just used some coordinating blue pattern paper from the Patterns and Solids, and I made a cheater pocket here on the side, added a little cut apart, these are the borders. I added this as a little pocket on the side. Did I add that on the pocket? No, but I did add, this was a sticker. I put it on black paper and left it open as a tuck spot. So that is all there is to that. So let me show you how to make it. It's simple. You just need a piece of cardstock that's 4.5 by 6 1/4. We're going to put the 6 1/4 side at the top, score it at 1/2 inch. Miter. And burnish on our score line. And in our book, the back of page 3, going to add glue to that tab. And it's going to go onto the right side of the page, the end of the page, not on the hinge, but on the page. And I'm just centering it top to bottom. There's going to be about 1/4 inch on the top and bottom. And we'll just burnish it. So I have a magnet in here to correspond, and then the magnet on this side. So again, that's how that's decorated. Just very simple. All right, now this is the front of page 4. All we do is have a pocket on the front of page 4. I had cut these from the paper. This was the 12-inch strip. I just cut it down and scored it on the lines and just added those 2 pieces. I decorated this with a border strip. I just cut that the length of the paper and added a chipboard element to the paper. So to do this, you'll need a piece that is 2.5 by 7 15/16. Just wanted it a little bit smaller than the page. Just so the pattern paper, this pocket goes over the pattern paper. So I'm going to put the 7 15/16 side at the top, score it 1/2 inch, rotate it, the 2.5 side at the top, score it 1/2 inch, rotate it again, the long side at the top, score it 1/2 inch. Honestly, I could have made it 8 inches. I don't remember why I made it like that. I'm going to cut across the X's and then miter at the top of the pocket. We'll fold and burnish on the score lines. I'm going to glue this bottom tab first. Put that on the page. I'm centering it on the page. I'll open this up again, burnish, and then add a piece of tape. And then glue the 2 side tabs. And there's our pocket. Now, again, here's how it's decorated, just pretty simple. This is a border strip. You don't have to use a border strip, but I liked this, how this matched with that paper. But again, you might not even be using the same paper. So there is that. Now, the back of page 4, I just decorated simply putting this paper on. I had this border strip. I glued it at this top and bottom and the side, so it made a tuck spot. That is all you need to do for the back of page 4. The inside back cover is a pocket with a flap. I used a magnet to hold it down, and so that's pretty simple. Let me show you how to do that. For that, you'll need 2 pieces of paper. One is 4 by 8.5. One is 4 5/8 by 7 3/8. The 4 by 8.5, we're going to put the 8.5 side at the top. I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch at 8, and then we'll rotate with the 4 inch side at the top and score it 1/2 inch. So this is going to make a pocket. I'll cut across the X's and miter the top. Now the other piece is going to be our top flap. I made it a little smaller just because I don't like it too big. The page doesn't always close well if it's too big. With the 4 5/8 side at the top, I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. We're going to miter the pocket, and I always like my corners rounded when I have a flap on top of a pocket. So I will go ahead and fold and burnish on the score lines here. And for our pocket, and this of course will go on the inside back cover. I'll add glue to the bottom tab and line this up even with the bottom of the page, the bottom of the back cover. You see glue seeping out. I'll clean that up. I'll burnish on the score line. And then I'll open that up, burnish again, and add my tape. Oops. And then add glue to the side tabs. And then I'll take this flap for the top, add glue to the tab, and I'm going to put it lined up with the top. And lined up with the right side of the book. I'll burnish that real well. Open this up and burnish it. Now, of course, I used magnets, so I put a magnet here and the corresponding one there. And that is all there is to making the book. Let me do a quick flip through one more time. And again, there is a more detailed walkthrough showing you a little more of the elements on how I decorated, but just so you remember, there's a swing tab that'll open, that'll open. These flaps, I just used whatever size scraps I had left. Of course, I fussy cut elements there. I like to use some of the decorative borders to decorate the papers. That's one of the fabulous things about Graphic 45. This was a cut apart. I just covered it with some plain, well, not plain, some black solid. There is the photo mat. Oh, let me show you how I make the photo mat. Now, if you don't have a tab punch, you can just cut the paper. So this is 4.5, and originally it was by 7. The way I figure out how much to cut it is I'll take my ruler, put it in, and see how far it will go. Do it throughout all the pages. Sometimes you may glue it a little more, but this goes into about a little over 6.5 inches. So I would, knowing I have room here in the back of the book, I would do 7 by 4.5 and round all 4 sides. But to make the page with the tab punch, I'll show you how I do that. Okay, here's one way of making the hidden photo mat. I just cut the paper. I'm going to round the corners. And of course, cut the decorative paper a little smaller. Now, if you want, this is perfectly fine. I do books with that kind of hidden photo mat all the time. But if you wanted to, I also have a tab punch. Just simply cut that, fold at the center, and then you can add that to your page. Just cut decorative paper a little bit smaller than that, and there you go for a hidden photo mat. The way that I've done it in this book is I have this tab punch board. I had it for a long time. I cut a tab out of decorative paper. I'm just going to use white, and measured this to figure out how long it was, and then just figured out where to score to make a tab a little bit bigger so I would have a border on the sides around this tab. So I will take my 4.5 by 7, and let's say we're going to have a tab to the top. So I'll punch here. I'm going to turn this over, and I've made my mark about 1/8 of an inch past where I want my medium-sized tab. And then I cut this piece off using this little doohickey. And there's the tab. Then here is my tab from my tab punch. It's this one. And it just gets glued on right there. So if you have decorative paper, you'll see there is a little bit, put this underneath, of a black border. Let me glue this on. Around my tab punch because I made my punch a little bigger than what it should be. So that is how I did the tabs for my hidden photo mats here. I just use scraps of paper and just cut it, make sure that it is in the right orientation. And that is all there is to it. I did one at the top, one about 1/2 inch down, another 1/2 inch, one at the bottom. So that is the 4 hidden photo mats for my book. And that is it. That is how I made the book using really what was left over from other projects using Nature Notebook. That's what I have for you today. Thanks so much for watching and have a fabulous try.